Alright, so I take 5 pins and pin them down, 2 at the front sides, 1 in the middle back, and then 2 at the corners. I pin this down just to make sure that there's no bumps or lumps along the edge of your closure, so when you're sewing it down, it's nice and flat. So when you start out stitching your closure to the cap, make sure you do a double knot or a double stitch at the corner so that it lays nice and flat and doesn't flap up when you go in to cut the cap under the closure at the end. And just go all around the cap and take the pins out as you're going along, and then make sure that your closure is nice and flat so that when you're done you don't have any ripples on your closure. And then I flip the cap over for a weft to put underneath, and I'll get to that. So I got 4 bundles here. The links will be on the screen and down below. Love their curly hair. I can't wait to show you guys how it looks at the end. But this is when I'm putting the first weft under the cap. I only do this if I feel like I may put my hair up like in a bun, a high puff, or whatever. I just have that security of a weft sewn underneath. And this is what it looks like when I put one weft under the cap or inside the cap. So when I start stitching the wefts onto the cap, I put the needle through the weft first. This helps decrease any type of tangling you will get. So make sure that you put the thread through the weft first before you start stitching it onto the cap. And then you place the needle as close to the closure as you can so you don't have any gaps between your closure and your wefts. And the way I do all my stitches, I do is it a knot or a loop, so that every stitch is secure, so that anytime you have a snag or any type of rip or cut in your the thread of your unit, your whole row of your bundles won't fall out. It is a little bit more time consuming, but your unit will be more secure and it will last longer. I've never had a unit where my wefts start falling off because of a snag or anything like that, so it's more security. So when I get to an end of a thread, or when the thread is getting short, I do a double loop on the needle, double or triple, and it makes an automatic knot when you pull it through, and then I just cut it off. I give enough room so that if I want to tie a knot, I can, but you don't have to, because when you do that double or triple loop, it automatically makes a knot. But I just do this if I have time. This adds extra security in your wefts and your threading and everything like that. So this is how I do my fold over method. When I get to as close as to the closure as I can, I put the needle through and then I do one loop, but it was a mistake here. I usually do 2 loops because it keeps the weft more down. Flip the weft over and then put the stitch as close to the closure as possible, and then loop the thread over the needle twice, just to lock that weft in place and be able to keep your bundles or wefts as flat as possible. So at this point I have 2 bundles down, and the last bundle, that's when I do the side to side stitching for the top. I do this with the wefts closer together for curly hair because it brings more volume to the top. so that your look overall with the curls would be nice and even. And then my unit is done. I have a nice volume up top. The closure, I think it has just a middle part. Yeah, just a middle part. Now I'm ready to cut the cap underneath the closure, cut off the lace, then send it off to condition and paddle brushing so I can plot the curls.
You say you find Pasalia. Man, no good is so mommy here. My teacher, my dear. About me, Sharia.
And then stay tuned for part 2 on how I install and how I got my little color up top.